Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight we are live, and we're doing this is a new one, Battle of the Debuts. The first debut album from Angel going against STARZ' first album. We want to hear from you in the chat. Let's do it. I hit the intro and it doesn't play. We have had, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Contrarians. We've had Butch has been popping in and out. The Elder's been popping in and out. The Parish has been popping in and out. I'm hoping everybody is having good internet experiences on their end. But we're still going to do this show, damn it, because we want to talk these two records. So we're doing the Battle of the Debuts. We are doing the 1975 Angel album against the 1976 STARZ album. So I'm going to get everybody's take on the Angel album first. Panel's going to go through and talk what they like, what they don't like, and we'll keep it brief. I'll get everybody's rating out of 10. Then I'm going to go to everybody in the chat and get your score out of 10. So you have to wait till it's time, but I want to bring in everybody on this. If everybody's watched my shows and watched these shows, you know how it works. So we're going to start out with Angel, 1975 album. And I think I'm just going to go as I see it. I'm going to go Martin, Parish, David, Elder, and Butch, and myself, and we're just going to go around. So we've got a half an hour for this album. So let's do it, gentlemen. Martin, you are up.
All right. So yeah, as Grant says, we're going to wait till the end and we're going to look at the comments. We want to know what you guys think of this, and we're going to do our scores as we go. Once we go around to STARZ, we're going to kind of recap and then let on who we think should win. But I've written an Angel book. This is still available from martinpopoff.com, but I'm wearing STARZ. So which way is it going to go? I'm only going to talk about Angel to start with, but so yeah, this record, so they're on Casablanca. The whole idea here was that, they're going to dress up all in white and they're going to be the antithesis of Kiss. They're on Casablanca. Another interesting comparison between these. They're not managed by Bill Aucoin. Kiss is, but STARZ is, but they're not on Casablanca. They're on Capitol, right? So this Angel album, I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I have a feeling that, as I think about it more, it's almost like the look of the band and being on Casablanca and kind of everything about the situation doesn't quite line up with the cerebral quality and the craftsmanship that you get in this album. To me, Angel is, they're almost like a progressive version of Deep Purple. They're certainly much cooler and much more talented than America's Deep Purple, which is Legs Diamond. But the progginess kind of leans it towards Styx as well, but it's just heavier and it's got a really cool kind of Deep Purple vibe to it. Playing it again just now, it almost feels a little bit like when Sabotage moves into the Streets era as well. Because these guys go kind of in reverse. They get more songsy as time goes on. Hell of a Band, I actually like more than this even. Hell of a Band is my favorite. And then they get even more songsy, and then they get kind of like poppy. The last two albums are not very heavy at all. This is pretty heavy, but not quite as heavy as Hell of a Band. What I love about this album is you've got these riffy, long intros and things, but things might change up for the verses. And it might get kind of like very grand and pump rock where you get some great keyboards or even like piano playing out of Greg Giuffria. Frank Domino as a vocalist is just so technically adept and operatic and thespian. He does an amazing job. Punky Meadows on guitar, talking to Punky over the years, it turns out that this is really not where his head was at. He really likes white hot and synthful type material a lot more than this. And we must say that Angel's been back with two reunion albums, which are really good and very non-obvious. They're not that heavy, so they're a little bit like that later stuff. So Punky is on here, and Punky is being kind of like Sabbathy and doomy and stuff. He does a great job, and I love what he does on here, but apparently it's not really his personality, which is kind of surprising. And then finally at the bottom, you've got Mickey Jones on bass, and you've got the great Barry Brandt on drums. And Barry has this incredible sort of like kind of like a Roger Taylor, Mick Tucker kind of vibe to his drumming. He's very dramatic and groovy. You know, when he hits the snare, that hi-hat opens, so you get that kind of cool thing out of him. So it's just a very dramatic and passionate sort of performance together of this album. It is beautifully produced by Derek Lawrence and Big Jim Sullivan. Big Jim Sullivan is like a guitar legend. Derek Lawrence, everybody says bad things about Derek Lawrence. He doesn't work very hard. He drinks too much, all this kind of stuff. But for some reason, it sounds amazing. And he always gets good sounding albums. Yet all the bands I've ever talked to complain about him up and down. I think he's no longer with us, I believe. So it's a beautiful sounding record. I think this album just went over people's heads. They were more concerned with the image of the band and everybody in white and the beautiful hair and them playing with their makeup and their hair and the disappearing act later and stuff. This is just too smart an album for the logo, the name, the look, being on Casablanca. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I guess I won't give my grade right now. We'll leave the grade for the end when we compare them. But I think this is an absolute masterpiece. I will stop there.
All right, Parrish. What's your thoughts on this one?
Well, to start with, I think we could have called this the Battle of the Logos. I mean, both bands had epic logos. Funny enough, not on the debut for Angel, but the one that came later is fantastic. Or we could have called it Battle of the Kiss lookalikes to some extent as well, as both bands obviously have links back in connotations in some ways to Kiss. I got into both bands about the time they came out. My older brother had both the albums, and I in fact, we'll come on to STARZ in a minute, but I've still got the STARZ album that he bought on German import over here. Neither band did anything at all in the UK, not known at all, and we were just lucky we had an import shop in the local town that got us some American records. My brother bought them, and I've pinched them off, and so I've known them, both albums, since they came out. When I was looking up to do a bit of research ahead of this, I found a brilliant quote that referred to Angel as Uriah Heep meets the Bee Gees. And I thought that was quite a good way of summing them up. Musically, certainly on this first album, they do remind me of Heep. But visually, they definitely look like the Bee Gees. So I can see how that reference came from it. A bit like Martin. I mean, to me, this is just classic American pop rock, but maybe turned up to 11, more so than the likes of Styx or Kansas, etc. But I can also hear echoes of Queen at times on this album. There's elements of ELO in some of the arrangements, I think, on the album as well, which I can hear in there. So it comes as no surprise, I do like the album. It's not my favourite, a bit like Martin, my favourite is Hell of a Band. But this is certainly very good. It kicks off, I think, in fine form with Tower, which is arguably their best song, not just on this album, in my mind, but across the whole repertoire. I just think that's a brilliant song. Other highlights, Long Time, I think, is very good. Mariner, which isn't normally the sort of song I would like, I think is epic in every sense of the term. And then you've got a couple of good hard rocking songs like Rock and Roller and On, which again I think I suppose a typical mid-70s hard rock in the vein of a Deep Purple or Uriah Heep. So I can hear that side of it as well. So I'll save my score, but I'm certainly a big fan of this album.
All right, cool, excellent. All right, David, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, interesting. Like when this topic came up, I was initially unsure if I should be part of it, given that I didn't have a lot of background in either of these bands or these albums, which is unusual, right? When you have the kind of musical catalogs that all of us have, you certainly, a lot of times you walk into these things with some kind of preconceived, feelings and nostalgia built in. So then I thought maybe it's good, that I could approach this differently with sort of fresh ears. I don't have a lot of emotion or nostalgia built into either of these, right? And so So I was kind of interested and excited to dive into both these records, which for no apparent reason have eluded me, but it's unusual because given the sphere of bands that I enjoy and that we talk about and the Kiss connections to both of these bands, it's odd that they've eluded me, but I think we probably all have bands that have somehow eluded us that, you know, you go back and go, why did that happen? That should have been on my radar. But in any case, digging into Angel, I think for me, you know, with fresh ears, I guess, you know, I think I'll agree. I think Tower, you know, out of the gate, super strong. I was digging it. I heard sort of Styx Grand Illusion right out of the gate. I'm like, am I listening? I'm waiting for, you know, Grand Illusion to kind of, where's Dennis DeYoung here? I certainly heard that influence really strong out of the gate. I heard, you know, Styx. And it's interesting that Martin brought up Sabotage because as I listened to it and lived with it for a little bit, I got a little bit of that too and had that in my note, a little bit of that Sabotage kind of, kind of some pieces of that kind of built in, and certainly, and for me, Triumph too. I kept hearing kind of Triumph and Styx and Sabotage all kind of influenced in there. But I like the record a lot. I think so. The advantage I think of me going into this with fresh ears was I had fresh ears and not sort of a preconceived notion. I think the disadvantage is because it's on the proggy side, sometimes that kind of music takes a lot of listens to sort of absorb and get. You don't get it maybe as much at first. So I'll save my score, but I think, you know, while I enjoyed it a lot, I think if we do this 6 months from now or a year from now, because you bet this is gonna be added to the collection, I bet you that I scored even higher than I did. But I liked a lot of the same songs. I thought Tower was strong. I thought Mariner, while a departure, was super strong. Sort of stood out for me even in sort of limited listens. And I thought it was cool that like the proggy nature of it, how the dynamics, you kind of didn't know where things were going, you know, where things would begin sort of slow and moody and get hard. And then maybe there's a moody patch in the middle. And then there were a few songs where I thought the outro was going to go on forever. I'm like, is this the longest fade out ever? But no, there's a vocal that's going to come back in, you know, or something's going to happen. I'm like, why do we have a minute of fade out on this song? It seems long, but turns out not a fade out. There was something that was going to happen. So I thought that was super cool, was sort of the unpredictability and the dynamics of what they were doing here. So I think I'll agree. I think from a visual standpoint, maybe a disconnect, which maybe worked against them, but certainly an album that I thought, looking back, a band that probably should have been bigger and maybe on more of, you know, mainstream radar. So super strong. I liked it a lot. I'll save my my scoring for later, but you know, yeah, I'll save that piece. So we'll move on.
Sweet.
All right, cool.
Good stuff.
Well, Alder, you've been in and out. Are you with us right now? I'm not sure if the Alder's
I guess
here.
not.
Is he like, do we lose? Oh,
I think he might be stuck in a space-time continuum.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, Butch, I'm throwing it over to you.
All right. But the first album that I discovered Angel through, in the 80s, unfortunately, I didn't get to discover the band in the 70s or see them then. I was too young. I found out about them just because I was a huge Kiss fan, and in reading magazines, there were magazines that would talk about their name would pop up from time to time, especially when Greg came out with Jafria. And so the name of this band, Angel, would pop up, and it just had me intrigued when there were these descriptions about the show and the image. And so I went out and I found Sinful first. And I'll be honest with you, the first time I spun it, I was like, this is not for me. I found it to be super lightweight. But within a couple months, I found the live record. And from the moment I put on Tower, I was like, oh, wait a second. Like when that song came in on the live record, I was like, oh, shit, I'm loving that. Like that whole record, like did it for me. Like just it became like a thing. Like the records like were really hard to find for whatever reason. I come out here in Pittsburgh and they're really easy to get in secondhand shops. But at the time in the 80s, for whatever reason, I couldn't find them in cutout bins and the used shops. Like they just didn't turn up that often. And I finally got the first two After I had Sinful for a while in the live one, I got the first two, and like when I listen to this, it like floored me, and from then on, they pretty much became. Everyone at school was like, listen, when everyone else is listening to Motley Crue and Rat and Doc, and I was listening to those bands too, but like I was like, who's the weird kid talking about Angel all the time? Like I'm trying to turn everyone on to Angel. Oh, you gotta listen to Angel, and I just love this record. I love Frank's voice. It's really clear and high, but it doesn't for. He's one of the few guys I think that does this, where he has like this voice that's high and doesn't have like a ton of edge on it, but still sounds like super rock and roll. Like he doesn't sound wimpy, I don't think. And it fits the music, whether they're doing like the grandiose kind of progressive kind of stuff, or whether they're doing like songs like Rock and Rollers, or, later on, Can You Feel It? Or, I mean, he could just change he could fit. Like anything they tried. He was great on the sweet pop stuff and great on the prog stuff. Man, every song in this record I've grown to love over the years. Tower is still, it's probably not only my favorite song by Angel, it's my favorite hard rock song of all time, period. Long Time's great. Rock and Rollers is awesome. I love Broken Dreams. That's my Black Horse song, Dark Horse song on here. Like it's real Sabbathy, that song. Like there's just a touch of like, anytime I try to describe Angel to people, I'm like, they sound kind of like if you took Queen and Zeppelin and Yes with a teeny bit of Sabbath and a little bit of Kiss and threw it in a blender. That's them, especially on the first record. But I love this whole thing. Broken Dreams is killer. Have Mariner's great. Sunday Morning on. I mean, I'm not going to name them all. I just did name them all. But one of the things I really like about the record, other than, of course, I love all the musicianship. Barry Brandt's a great drummer. And I love the balance between the guitar and the keyboards. Greg, as a singer, it's weird, like who my idols are all over the map. And like Greg is, for me, like one of my all-time idols in terms of musicians. The way he plays, I really appreciate his style, that he doesn't like. I love Hammond, don't get me wrong. Like I love what Deep Purple did. I love what Heap did, what those big, Rainbow did. But there's a way that Greg has this style of playing that it skews it almost towards a second guitar in some ways. He has his own style kind of going on, real Moog heavy and synthy, and it's not as big on the big, those big Hammond kind of vibe. It's this it's more futuristic kind of sound in a way. And I love the way that he and Punky Meadows would bounce off of each other and go back and forth and have little dog fights. And, the guitar playing on here is great. I think Punky's an underrated guitar player, real fiery player. I think he has his own sound and stands out. I just, overall, I mean, I've listened to this record so many times over the years. I'll reserve my grade to the end, but I think we can all, and they're still one of my favorite bands of all time. I'm so glad to still have Angel around, even if it's just Frank and Punky in the band. But tremendous record.
Cool.
Love it.
Good stuff. Nice.
All right, Elder. How are we? Oh, he's nodding. He's moving. That's a good sign.
He's moving.
What's your thought? Space-time continuum.
Maybe you are losing him.
He has to like catch up.
Greg Giuffria's synth wizardry has opened up a hole in the universe.
Exactly. Yeah. We've torn the fabric of time here.
Because the Elder used to live in Dayton, Ohio, and they were saying in the comments that he must have brought Dayton Wi-Fi to Florida.
All right.
Let's. Okay, should we get our scores now, or do you want to do it later?
No, let's do our scores at the end of STARZ. I think. Yeah.
All right, let's start. Okay, everybody, so stay tuned because I'm going to need you all in the comments. All right, let's throw it over to Martin. What's your thoughts on STARZ, and then we'll do our ratings, and then all right, stay tuned, everybody. Elder, we will come back to you.
Okay, so the STARZ album. Here's an original of it. It's embossed, right? You get the classic band shot on the back. On the inside, you know, we got this happening, right? We got the patch. Here's my actual patch. Oh, where's my camera? There we go. My actual patch of it. And then you got this on the back. So yeah, they put a lot of work into this. We got the lyrics to one song, "She's Just a Fallen Angel," which is pretty cool. Get the sides right here. There we go. So yeah, great packaging on this. They're out on Capitol, Rocksteady Management, as I was saying, Bill Aucoin. So this record, this is a famous record that everybody talks about how this band should have been bigger, because it really is right place at the right time. They are very much the only band that sounds like Kiss, and one could argue that this is better than most Kiss albums, the classic Kiss albums. It's definitely right up there with the Kiss albums at the time. You can compare this to Rock and Roll Over. It's not very much like Destroyer, but it's almost like a Kiss Goes to the Gym version of Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun kind of thing. Just the same way I kind of talk about Tank being like the thinking man's Motorhead, or like a few extra ideas than Motorhead, but kind of Motorhead-like. That's kind of what STARZ is to Kiss. And it's beautifully produced by Jack Douglas. No complaints about the sound either. You've got some songs. The songs that are very Kiss-like on here would be the likes of your Detroit Girls, your Live Wire, a little bit Monkey Business. Over and Over would kind of fit. You've got an outlier in Pull the Plug. This was based on the whole Karen Ann Quinlan, you know, do you take off life support story that was going on at the time. She's Just a Fallen Angel is a little poppier than Kiss, but that's the song they're obviously promoting here. Tear It Down is a little Kiss-like. It's got that kind of like modest Kiss shuffle thing to it. And then it's got the two very heavy songs on here, Boys in Action and Now I Can. Those were the ones we always loved the most, because they are the most heavy metal and the most riffy. Like I say, great production, good songs. I think that their real ace is the songwriting, and B, the vocals of Michael Lee Smith, brother of Rex Smith, right? There we got Michael right in the middle. Looked good. The whole band looked cool. Has actually kind of a similar voice to Rex as well. It's just got a lot of personality in it. Completing the band, we got Peter Sweevil, Richie Rano, Joe X Dubé on drums. You always saw those drum sponsorship ads with Joe in them. Always looked really dramatic. Brendan Harkin. So yeah, this is just a really good quality. Should have been bigger. Managed by Bill Aucoin. So why didn't they succeed? Why weren't they kind of pushed the same way Kiss kind of was? Capitol, maybe not the greatest label at the time. I know they didn't really do much for Sweet. Love the logo. Great logo. They used it a lot. And just in comparison, just like Angel, I think that the second album is better. Violation is an even better album than STARZ, and it's a little more Destroyer-like. It's just got a little more effects and ear candy and interesting stuff like Subway Terror and Violation on it. And then they pooched the dog and put out that pop album, Attention Shoppers, which horrified everybody, but it's got the two best STARZ songs on it, in Good Ale We Seek and X-Ray Specs. Other than that, there's no heaviness on it whatsoever. Then they try to go back to heavy, and they don't get very good production on Coliseum Rock, and that's all they did. They just did the 4 albums. So the two that have a lot of personality and warmth and magnetism are the first two, STARZ and Violation, and I think Violation's a better album. But I love this album as well. So time for rating. I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10, and I'm going to give Angel a 10 out of 10. There's really nothing you can fault on this record at all. So I'm going to go 10 and 8. I just think this is objectively a masterpiece, and this is more like subjectively when you bring in the ideas around, what is songwriting when you come up with this one. So 8 for STARZ, 10 for Angel.
Okay, 8 for STARZ, 10 for Angel. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, everybody in the chat, hold on, and then we'll get to you in a minute. All right. Parrish, what's your scoop and what are your ratings?
Okay, well, that's my copy from back in the 70s, German import. See, it was purchased for 14.95 Deutschmarks, whatever that became in English.
What do you get inside that, Parrish? And is it embossed?
No, nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing.
What's the back? Full credits on the back?
Full credits on the back. So the back's I think is the same as yours.
It's the same, yeah. Okay.
With the Buffon haircut and the three musketeers in the top left hand corner.
Yeah.
Okay. With also the song titles in the wrong order as well on the back.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the same with you. Yeah.
Yes, it's the same. Yeah.
So, and released on Capitol. So I suppose this. I mean, STARZ is probably proof that Gene Simmons was absolutely right to put Kiss in makeup and put on the stage show, because STARZ and Kiss are very similar. In my view, I think in some ways STARZ had some better songs, but Kiss obviously did far better. So if Gene Simmons ever needed any justification for why he did what Kiss did in that image and the look, etc., then I would suggest what happened to STARZ is probably a good a good reason. From the album itself, I mean, again, I love the album. It's not my favourite. I'm going to agree with Martin again. I think Violation is a slightly better album. And in fact, back in 1979, I played in a rock band gigging around London, and we used to play Sing It, Shout It off Violation and pass it off as if it was our own song, because nobody else had ever heard it. So we got away with that one. It kicks off with Detroit Girls, which I think is a great rocking opening, very catchy. It kind of sounds Kiss-like, and then continues with Live Wire in a similar vein. I think they sound quite sweet-like with the drumming on this, and that you can hear that on Tear It Down, and the chorus on Tear It Down sounds to me like the Eagles. It's almost like if the Eagles ever did glam rock, that's what they would sound like on that song. Boys in Action, I think, is probably the best song in the album. And I'm always a sucker for songs that you think's finished. It kind of comes to an end and then comes back in again and builds. And this does it twice. It's just an absolute corker. As I say, my favourite on the album. I think it's let down slightly by She's Just a Fallen Angel, which is kind of a bit of a limp ballad. And I think Monkey Business is a bit of a sort of run-of-the-mill type rocker. It's okay. But the next two are very good. I like Pull the Plug, which is a kind of a bluesy rock song. It reminds me a bit of early AC/DC in the guitar work on that song. Like it a lot, clearly quite controversial. And then it closes with Now I Can, which I think is a very brooding sort of song to finish the album with. It is again another good rocker. So I like both albums a lot, and I'm going to give Angel 8, and I'm going to give STARZ 8.5.
All right, 8.5. Well, okay. Would you say, what was it? 8.5?
8.5 for STARZ, 8 for Angel.
Got it. All right. I'm trying to keep up. I've got everybody in the people are giving their scores anyway in the chat. I'm keeping up. Nice. Awesome, Parrish. Let's throw it over to David. David, give me your, well, you know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Scores.
Yeah, so this album hit me a little different. Like I said, coming in cold to these bands for the most part. I think I took to it more quickly because it's not, like I said, with the, trying to listen to, Angel first. I mean, the proggy stuff, I think that the more listens, the more stuff grows on you, for me anyway. And this album, the STARZ stuff being really more like, right out of the gate, I'm like, this sounds like a Kiss record. A lot of the lead guitar riffs, I'm like, I've heard that before. That sounds very similar to what, because of course I've heard the Kiss stuff 1 million times. I don't know that I'm ready to argue it's better than Kiss. That's probably a different panel, but I will say I did like it a lot. I think I took to the songs, the riffiness, the guitar tone, obviously a lot more straightforward rock, in the vein of early Kiss, as opposed to what you're getting out of Angel. So, almost a difficult comparison because they're very different in terms of, what I relate them to, right? Like a Grand Illusion versus Rock and Roll Over, how you do that, right? But well, I like them both. From a score standpoint, I was going to give STARZ. I'm sorry, I was going to give Angel a 6.5, which is above average. I know, don't crucify me, but I'm actually going to go with a 7 for STARZ. Extra half point for having a theme song named after yourself on your record, because I think that's cool. That has panache, right? If you're gonna say, I'm gonna name this, I'm gonna have a theme song and we're gonna call it our name of our band, I like that. I like that move. So 7 for Angel,
Okay.
and 7.5 for STARZ. Edges it out for me a little bit, but like I said, if we did this panel 6 months from now, it could easily be reversed, because I think the more proggy stuff tends to grow on me over time. But I think both of them are records that, if anyone out there is watching that's like me, that for whatever reason have evaded them for whatever reason, go out and get them like I am. I have a hunch that I'm about to go through a wormhole with these catalogs, and in record time I'm going to have adding quite a few more to my but that's what makes this cool, right? Like, the cool thing is I've now sort of been exposed to 2 bands I was aware of that I didn't really dig into, but not only these debuts, but I have a hunch I'll be digging into the catalog. So with that, I will hand it off. Good
Nice.
stuff.
All right.
Good stuff, Dave.
Super. I guess we'll just go to Butch and then, well, maybe Elder. How are you? How's everything functioning right now?
Everything seems to be okay right now, but I don't want to
All
jinx it.
Well, talk about both records real quick, and then we'll go to. I want to get you while it's working.
Okay.
So can you
okay,
briefly
so,
talk about Angel and STARZ, and then give me both scores?
all right, cool. So I'm like with David. I don't really know these records too well. I don't have like a nostalgic connection to them or anything. These pretty much the first time I've heard these records, really. So Angel, what I remember, I think I maybe have heard this like a long time ago. A friend of mine was into Angel, and maybe he played this. I also have, this is the one I have right here. But I haven't played it in a while. So, what I was really surprised with Angel is how proggy they were on this record. Anyway, they kind of remind me of Uriah Heep a little bit. Really proggy. They weren't the typical verse chorus thing. It had some good time changes in it. And so, so like I said, I don't have really connection to it. Just like kind of the first time hearing it, I really liked it. It was more proggy than I thought, like I said. So with this record, I will give it a 7. Okay. And so you want me to talk about STARZ too?
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
So we got a 7. All
right. So STARZ, this kind of reminds me of comparing Rush and Kiss a little bit. Because Angel's more proggy, and STARZ is Kiss, and like David said, I could definitely hear like a Kiss influence on STARZ. Some of the guitar riffs definitely reminiscent of Ace Frehley, and the lead playing is definitely reminiscent of Ace Frehley. And lyrically, they're kind of doing the typical rock and roll kind of thing, lyrics, kind of your typical rock and roll kind of thing. And the song that really though, the song Pull the Plug, I had to look up the lyrics to that because I was like, what is this guy singing about? Is this like I Love the Dead or Cold Ethel by Alice Cooper or something? Is he, what's he singing about? And lyrics are really wild, like it maybe, Alice Cooperish sort of. But I think I'll give this album a 6. I like the Angel one a lot better, I think, just because of its prog elements, and it's not as derivative as I found STARZ to be.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you,
Cool.
Elder. All
right.
All right, Butch.
Butch.
Give us your scoop.
All right. I went looking for my vinyl. I must have it framed and ready to hang up or something in my house because I couldn't find it. I had it signed by a few of the guys in the band. But so here's my little CD. This Ryko one, by the way, is cool if you're a fan or if you're looking at get this on disc, this is the version to get because it's got about 4-5 bonus tracks on it, which are cool to have, demos and a couple of unreleased things. But I discovered this album through a neighbor across the street. They were friends of my parents, maybe a little bit younger than my folks, flipping through the records, and I come up with, they let me borrow some, and I came up with this STARZ record and Never Turn Your Back on a Friend by Budgie and a couple other things. And I was like, I just looked at the cover. I'm like, well, that's, that's intriguing enough as it is. That logo is really great. But then the picture of the band on the back, I'm like, it's just one of those things, like when you grab a record and you look at the band, and of course they're not going to have the back cover in here. Anyway, someone showed it earlier, but I'm like, these guys look like it's probably a hard rock band. And I asked Ed, I said, is this hard rock? He's all really hard rock. And so again, this is another case of a band I'd never heard before. I put it on my turntable, and my turntable about melts. Like, there it is. Yeah. Like that, I saw that picture and I'm like, those guys look really cool. Like I'm like 14 or 15 at the time. I'm like, I got to check this record out. This looks like it's up my alley. And like I said, I dropped this onto a cassette and about wore the cassette out. Like, again, just every song on here, especially, side one is like banger after banger. Detroit Girls and Livewire, Tear It Down, Boys in Action, super heavy for its time. I think Boys in Action's really, really heavy song. Side two, I think not as cohesive as side one, but still, like, I like every song. Nightcrawler's great. Over and Over, super kind of like power poppy kind of song. Pull the Plug is awesome and is a mainstay in their set. And then Now I Can is my favorite song on here. Again, like a really heavy song. One of the things I liked about, there's definitely a Kiss influence there. I think their lyrics, I think they definitely got some crap for this back then. I think they definitely pushed things a little bit further, maybe into controversial territory. The whole story behind Pull the Plug with the Carrie Ann Quinlan case, the girl that was on life support and that was making the news, and Nightcrawler and Boys in Action certainly have lyrics that aren't exactly made for, living rooms across America, but great hard rock record. I mean, these guys, like, again, super talented. Michael Lee Smith is a great underrated singer. Like, what a great voice on him. And as of 2019, which is the last time I saw them with him singing, he still sounded just as good as he did in the 70s. Tons of hooks. Like, this album is full of hooks and great playing. Jack Douglas's production is great on here. Overall killer record. I listened to it over and over and over again. It was one of those things at the time in the 80s. I was like, I heard this and I had to go find Violation and Attention Shoppers and Coliseum Rock. And they weren't, again, not easy to find. And I actually got one of them off of Richie Reno was doing record shows at the time. My buddy said, you got to come down to the Allentown Fairgrounds. Richie Reno has a booth set up here. He was selling some of the stuff he sells through his site, like, rock paraphernalia, like backstage passes and stuff like that. He's super cool guy. I met him several times over the years. Still plays his ass off. Great player. They were great songwriters. It's a shame they never made it bigger than they did. So as for scores, man, both very important records to me. 10 for the Angel record, 9.5 for the STARZ album.
Oh, all right. Oh, 9.5. Dang. All right.
I like, but not as much as side one. Like, Over and Over is good, but
yeah. Webb says the Angel wins this battle, but barely. I'm kind of like Webb. I think I didn't even talk about it. I think what everybody says all have valid points. For me, I think that the Angel album is a little bit, I think I like the proggy aspect of it. I like the hard rock aspect. I think it perfectly blends both of them together perfectly. And it's not so far out there that you know, it could be alienating. All the songs are good. I don't have a problem with the production. I think Tower is a monster of a track. And the things with
Yeah.
STARZ,
Mhm.
I love STARZ. I think Cherry Baby is the greatest 45 of the 70s. Power pop. Now Schnee could go back and forth saying that's power pop adjacent. Damn it. Cherry Baby is power pop. One of my favorite songs ever. I love that song. So if I was putting the Angel album up against if Violation was going up against the debut, Angel STARZ would win. But I'm going to give Angel the nod because I think that the first STARZ album, I think they got better kind of as they went along. I mean, that's debatable. I don't like with Martin. I think Violation's a better record. This record kind of, I don't want to dog it so much, but I could see where people could look at it and go, it's just kind of, I mean, you're going to compare it to Kiss. I think Kiss has a lot more personality. They don't have quite as much personality, if that makes sense. And they kind of grew into themselves as a band as they went. That's the way I look at it. But Angel, I think that they were ready to go right out of the gate. So neither record are perfect records. If I was going to rate them, I'd probably give STARZ probably, I think I'd give STARZ an 8, and I'm going to give Angel a 9.
Sweet.
Good stuff.
Let's see. All right, I got to put it in the right spot. All right, there we go. And then a 9. But I like them both, but I love Violation. I don't want to dog STARZ. I love STARZ, but I think there's that second album. I'm a professional. Exactly. Cherry Baby is amazing. Freaking yes. All right, cool. So anybody who has not given me their tally, I'm ready. Okay. Slogan.
And I want to thank all these guys for showing up. We got a lot of people here, so that's great. Gary and Chris, you probably can't hear me. I'm on
All right. Oh, Martin, I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you.
A lot of people.
So
Yeah, I know. I can't scroll down. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. This has been really cool. I've been reading the comments as we've been going along. So there's a lot of good stuff there. I just want to add one thing. That Angel album isn't prog, it's theatrical.
Well, it's prog adjacent. Okay. Webb's going Angel 8.5 and STARZ 8. Okay.
I also think it's interesting. A couple of you brought up Sabotage because I can still remember a review that ran in the Morning Call out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for the Fight for the Rock album by Sabotage. And I was already a fan, but the reviewer compared it. He said the record sounded a lot like Angel, and there's a lot on that record that actually kind of does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. I think so did everybody weigh in on, God, I hope that was a comma. Oh, I put it.
But even on Streets, they get even more where it's like these big, dramatic John Oliver piano ones, and you kind of get that structure being used a lot on the first Angel album. And I neglected. I should also add, Broken Dreams is amazing. I think that is the dark horse song here. It's so Uriah Heep, Look at Yourself, like you say, Black Sabbathy as well. It's got that doomy vibe to it. And I would add that the production on here beats every single Deep Purple production, and it's only second to Look at Yourself when it comes to that keyboard guitar alloy, just the beautiful panorama of bass through treble properly. Yeah. I think this album is literally in that family of sounds where you're trying to get that keyboard sound and that guitar sound sounding like guitars. And just sounding super high fidelity. I always say that Machine Head's the best sounding of the Purple ones. Look at Yourself is the best sounding of the Heat. I think this slots right in there, above Machine Head and below Look at Yourself.
Even that Warner Brothers, the original, I'm just going to give some props to the Deep Purple Machine Head album. The original Warner Brothers CD that came out late 80s absolutely sounds stunning. That whole production is great. There's air around all the instruments. Yeah. The guitars ring out. The bass sounds great. The keyboards sound great. The drums, the way they recorded the drums for Machine Head,
Yeah.
It's a beautiful sounding record.
But you know what? You'd never say that about any of the Mark Ones. You wouldn't say it about In Rock. You wouldn't say it about Fireball. You wouldn't say it about Who Do We Think We Are. You wouldn't say it about any of the Mark III. I mean, literally, they do not have great productions in the 70s. And Machine Head succeeds. It totally does. But yeah, I think he kind of beats them. And you know, honestly, this sounds a little more. It sounds closer to Demons and Wizards and A Magician's Birthday production as well.
Peter Jones,
do you think the sorry, I was going to say, do you think the look put a lot of people off, Martin?
I'd say so. I think it was seen as a little bit of a gimmick, and they were definitely pretty boys. They really had the nice hair and everything. They definitely had that look. Later on, when it got up into the post live album situation, they put all that stuff aside and just went out. I have pictures in my mind of like jeans or red pants or red shirts or something. So they stopped doing it after a while. And I don't think they did it right in the very, very beginning either, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Butch?
I missed part of what you said at the very beginning. I remember reading Frank said that they, even in the clubs, they were wearing like white shirts, but they didn't do the full white thing until they got signed and went out on the road. And I don't think the full show came in until they were around the time of On Earth as It Is in Heaven. I don't know if they were doing it for. They might have been doing it for Hell of a Band, because I've seen pictures of the stage with they had that trick where they went up in the album cover and they had the back cover of Hell of a Band on it. So, but I don't think they had that.
They certainly have that look on the cover of Hell of a Band.
Yeah. The first album.
I was gonna say the first time.
Uh-oh.
I was gonna say the first time I saw Angel was in a movie called
Foxes.
Foxes. And they were performing to they're going to an Angel concert, and I remember seeing, I think it's Punky Meadows with a full beard, just playing his guitar and stuff, and I thought they were pretty cool in that. And
on the inner sleeve of Angel, it's just studio shots, so they're just dressed casually in the studio, and even on the back, it's all just small studio shots. So
I just wondered that those who like the image would have bought the album and maybe not liked the music, and those who would have liked the music would have been put off by the image.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, are we ready to? I'm ready. I got everything. You ready?
One.
Okay. Well, we'll calculate. Okay. Okay. Oh my! Angel got an 8.06. Holy crap! And STARZ got an 8. Wait a minute. STARZ got an 8.07.
Nice.
Wow. We did that other show the other night, and it was a tie.
I was going to say, we'll call that a draw, shall we?
I'd say it's a draw.
Yeah.
Is it a tie again? I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it was a tie pretty much by 8.06 to 8.07.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, I guess it's basically a tie.
But we should give it to Angel because of the logo.
Logan, are you giving me scores again? We're done. So, I mean, technically,
the polls are closed.
The polls are closed, but STARZ won by
a hanging Chad.
I'm using the computer, Logan. I'm not doing this manually. All right, cool. Well, it was definitely a tie. I'm surprised we've had 2 ties this week.
Nice. Cool.
Hey, everybody's putting their 2 cents in. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I can't, whatever.
Yeah.
Look, Peter Jones is going, I changed my Angel from a 5 to a 2. STARZ for the win. I'm surprised. I liked Angel better, but not by much. They're both good records. Let's be honest. All right,
man. Wrap her up.
Let's wrap it up. All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming on. It's a group effort here in the Contrarians. Want to thank tonight's panel. We've got the Parish. We've got the Elder. We've got David. We've got Butch, and of course Martin and myself. If you'd like to be on these panels, we'd love to have you. If you have a good internet connection, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
if you'd like to support the channel, we have a Patreon. That's always a good thing. Get you on the panels. It's you get the shows early. And there's been a lot of interaction on there because Martin has been really busy. So there's a lot of activity on Patreon. We also have Ko-fi. Buy us a pint or a cup of coffee. We'd appreciate that. We also have donations. We're just here to talk music. And hey, this is a tie. It is what it is. Maybe we need to pick more albums that are more, I don't know. But Martin had an idea for an album, so we might do that. Anyway, we will do another one of these because these are a lot of fun.
Rex Diamond next.
We should have did the first Rex album against the first STARZ album.
Ooh.
Yeah, or Rex against Derringer Sweet Evil or something like that. Or
Yeah,
Blake's Diamond. Yeah,
that would work.
We'll discuss.
We will discuss. All right, everybody, have a good night. We will see you on the next
Cheers.
one,
Right.
and we'll see you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, everyone.